What makes a game a cult classic? For my final project, I wanted to do an in-depth analysis on what makes a game a classic, and how the factors of music, community, idealism, and culture shape the landscape in which these games compete. To be clear, and for my own sanity, I'll be focusing only on video games, and while I want this to be an in-depth analysis, I also want it to be simply understood. With that out of the way, allow me to set the foundation for this whole project, and talk to you a little bit about classic video games. When I say classic video game, what comes to mind? Some of the most fun I had doing this project was asking people this very simple question. There's a phrase that goes, ask stupid questions, get stupid answers. Surprisingly, that statement doesn't hold up when tweaked just a tad. When I asked a simple question, I got anything but a simple answer. Of the nearly 40 people I asked, I got a spread of games, game characters, game consoles, and game companies, from varying decades with varying levels of quote-unquote popularity. Why is that? The answer is 2.5-fold. The first fold is the obvious. Age. When I ask someone around my age, 22 or younger, the answer was typically a game or game franchise. I got Pokemon, Donkey Kong, GoldenEye, and even Fortnite, I guess. Point being, it followed a soft trend. However, when I asked people even a couple years older than me, the results became wildly erratic. I asked my friend Sam, a 25-year-old who I considered to be pretty on the tip, and she gave me the same answer as my 49-year-old mother. Atari. But not the same Atari. For Sam, it was the console. For my mom, it was the company. On top of that, I got Pac-Mans, Pikachus, Pongs, Mario, Super Mario, Space Pinball, freaking Tapper. The list goes on. They say that with age comes wisdom, but it also comes with an increase in options dependent on exposure and cultural awareness. Remember way back when I mentioned quote-unquote popularity? Well, I used Tetris as the control variable, and the results may surprise you. Clickbait article aside, the majority of the older answers didn't even know what Tetris was. What it is one of the most sold games of all time. Financially speaking, one of the most popular. No one answered Tetris, nor did they answer Minecraft, or GTA 5, the only two games ahead of Tetris in sales. Which leads me into my second fold. Popularity is not equal to transactions. I look at this in the same way that I look at movies. For example, The Room, a terrible movie that did terrible at the box office and is now a cult classic. What I mean is that it's all about word of mouth and the community that surrounds those discussions. The fuel for these discussions can be anything, from the Super Mario theme to the countless hours spent playing Pac-Man at a local arcade to why The Last of Us 2 does or does not have a compelling storyline. At the end of the day, all that matters is that the discussions are happening. These experiences are a huge part of raising cultural awareness, and the ideology behind the discussions give them staying power. Not everyone has played Pac-Man, but you don't have to in order to know the name and conjure an image of the yellow ball man. Finally, my last half-fold, the fold that I only give half credit to because it breaks the rules. The last reason for why I got a non-simple answer to my simple question is because the question isn't actually simple. The first two folds are evident enough. When I ask an individual what they had for breakfast today, the answer is relatively simple, right? All they have to do is remember what they ate and blurt out an answer. When I ask a group of individuals, the question remains simple for them, but the why becomes exponentially harder for me. It's not a mind-blowing realization that people are different and do different things. What I found interesting was that the simpler the question, the more complicated the answer, and vice versa. So, my question wasn't simple, it was broad, which led to broad answers. But I said I wanted a simple, easy-to-understand analysis, so here's my answer after extrapolating all the data. A cult classic game is one that can be heavily talked about and or is easily recognizable. Essentially, it's those games that can bridge the age and intellectual gap, as well as be a shared experience that persists in any cultural setting. Pac-Man was the game with the majority of vote of 7, followed by Mario and Mario-related titles such as Super, Kart, and Party with 8 altogether. In a wider sense, Nintendo won out as a company with 15 votes falling under its umbrella. But, at the end of the day, these are just stats. Stats collected from a small subset of 36 people. When it comes down to it, the person who has to make the final decision about what a classic video game is you. All I can do is give you the criteria from which I judged it.